What was your school's huge scandal? My school district gave all high school students laptops that they could bring home with them to use for school work. They could also remotely activate the webcams and spy on students, although of course they didn't tell us this. One kid got caught smoking weed this way while he was in his room at home, and I think was going to get suspended. He sued the district in response for invasion of privacy and won the case. It got national media attention for a little while. Good for him. My friend's sister got suspended for a fight she got into after school, off school grounds. Their parents fought it and got the suspension reversed. I'm tired of schools thinking they have any say in what kids do on their own time. Unless a student specifically gets school personnel involved, it's none of their business. The assistant principal died in a car accident. There was a big somber school assembly in his honor. His wife said a few words, and then his 14-year-old daughter came to the microphone to say a few words. She sort of snapped and unloaded about how he was not a good guy. He was a monster who had been abusing her and her little sisters and using them for kiddie pronoun for years, and she was glad he was dead. I've never heard a room full of people grow so silent, so fast. A year after I graduated HS, a woman was stabbed 40+ times with a pair of scissors while jogging on our track on a Sunday. One of the guys in that year's senior class wound up hanging around the track over the following days, obsessively pestering investigators with questions and theories, so naturally some suspicion fell on him. When the woman's description of her assailant she survived matched him spot on, he was arrested, and both the scissors used and his bloody clothes were found at his house. Dude was sentenced to 10+ years in prison. End of story. Right, wrong. 2 years after the trial, the jailed kid is ordered released after his little brother, 1 year younger and a dead lookalike for his big bro, is popped for violent sexual assault on a woman and confesses to the stabbing during questioning. Turns out the older brother took the fall for him, falsely confessing so that he could keep his younger sib out of jail. Dude never told anyone, but did admit the lie after his younger brother's arrest and confession. I knew both kids when I was a student there. Both brothers were definitely thought to be weirdly intense, but their behavior was attributed to their military dad's strict style of parenting, and not anything darker. My high school district's superintendent hired a relative who wasn't qualified for the job, increased the salary of administrators every year, used the district's credit card to buy meals, groceries, gas, personal electronics, and gift cards. When the state audit went through they said that the overpay of administrators and the personal spending cost the school district around $1 million. Her husband was also an administrator. When she eventually got caught, she just retired and for some reason never faced federal charges. When she retired she had a $260,518 salary. My favorite part is that the state audit discovered that the district's credit card was used to purchase logging equipment the same month the superintendent's husband filed paperwork to open a timber company. Everyone knew there was corruption in the school district, but no audits or investigations happened until someone was threatened by the superintendent's husband on Facebook. 2 things. 1. We had a bomb threat and the teachers would not tell us who sent it until the school paper leaked it, and for the rest of the year admin and the paper had a back and forth power battle too. Not our school, but our sister school. The principal of that school got fired because he was found in a hotel room with a dead hooker on the bed and a mountain of coke on the desk. The caretaker killed 2 local girls and hid them in the school. He tried using the clay kiln to burn them. He later dumped them a few miles away. A very popular guy at my school was arrested for videotaping people using the restroom. He was 18. They were not. My high school guidance counselor fricked a science teacher's wife and everyone knew about it. They got a divorce. Both teachers still work at the same school to this day, and students will never ever let it go. The story has been handed down from year to year. A girl died in the pool during an event at the school. The swim teacher was blamed and was prosecuted. The girl who died was at my sister's class. Both were 7 at the time. That happened over 10 years ago, but the parents haven't had another child since. She was their only kid. Some idiot parent showed up to the local elementary school a few years ago and said, "I have a gun. I'm going to go to this classroom and shoot this person. What are you going to do about it?" He was promptly arrested. He wanted to know what the school's policy was on active shooter situations and make sure they were prepared and his kid would be protected. Unfortunately, he was next level stupid and has been spending some time in prison. I went to a small Christian high school that also had a middle and elementary school on the grounds. The principal of the high school had a child that was in my grade. One day he comes over the intercom and announces that he's stepping down from his position. He then goes on to talk about how he and the female gym coach had been having an emotional affair for the last few months. This announcement goes through every speaker in all 3 schools. I remember everyone in my class looking over at his daughter who had a look of complete surprise on her face. From what I gathered, this was the first time she was hearing about all of this. Shortly after, the gym teacher also left her position, but the most interesting part? The gym teacher had no idea this was going on. She was just doing her job and thought she was friends with everyone. The principal read more into their relationship and decided to go to the church with it, and they made this decision. The gym teacher left her job out of shame and had to spend a lot of time explaining to her husband what exactly was going on. Edit, adding information that others have asked about. The gym teacher's husband took a little time to realize that there was no actual affair that went on. After that, the rumors and gossip in the area got to be too much, and he ended up getting a different job pretty far away and moved them both to start fresh. The principal and his wife got a divorce within a day or so of the announcement. The wife got custody of all 3 kids, plus I think eventually their house and a fair amount of money. The former principal took a job selling either cars or furniture, I can't remember which, and pretty much faded from the radar. I don't think his eldest daughter had anything to do with him after all of that. I wanna say that she intentionally made sure he stayed away from her wedding. My high school had some fights that for some reason managed to make the local news, and the principal's words about it were broadcasted as well. She was pissed and talked loudly in a passive-aggressive manner over the announcements the next morning, repeating our school's mission statement over and over, ending the broadcast with record that became a bit of a meme around the school after that, and the school seems to have lightened up about the situation since, because the journalism team shirts have record that written across the back. In my sophomore year, a group of seniors decided a good senior prank would be to sneak into the bus garage and slash youth tires on buses in order to get out of school. Ended up causing over $40,000 in damages and did cancel school one day, and the police came to the school to do interviews all that week. Apparently, most of them got away with it because of how the buses were parked at the time. Some of them were doubled up, so they only hit the second row of buses, which made camera views too far away to positively identify. After that year, our and the neighboring districts changed their bus lots so that the buses were single row only and beefed up camera systems. Also, as per many posts on this thread, found out after I graduated that my chemistry teacher in 10th grade was arrested years later in the neighboring state for trying to meet underage girls for sex. He was at least in his 50s. 5 or so guys got caught smoking synthetic weed, the kind that utterly reeks and will frick you up internally, in the school toilet right next to the biology rooms, where the biology teacher had just got out of being a drug officer in the Met. When asked if they smoked cannabis in the toilets, apparently one of them, he was new to the school and didn't speak much English, said, "No, I only smoked weed." We had 2 teachers arrested for secretly recording kids in separate incidents. Our woodshop teacher had a low-angle camera on the floor pointing up towards the seats, and also would slide an iPad out from under his desk when girls would walk up to it. He let a student borrow his flash drive, who found the evidence. Then our speech teacher was caught hiding a camera underneath a sink in one of the private bathrooms that special education used. Someone spray painted "Is a kiddie diddler" ask on the wall of the school. Everyone saw it when they showed up. The teacher was nowhere to be found that day. The girl was also nowhere to be found. I remember it was a Friday, cause the day was crazy with people talking about it, but it sort of died down on the weekend. Monday we find out the guy killed himself that weekend. Later, talking to the girl, sadly it was very true. Others came forward later. It was a pretty shooty situation. Edits. Kiddie diddler equals child molester. 30 years ago, girl miraculously seemed normalish after I think she was hella strong. I didn't actually know any of the other girls who came forward, or don't remember knowing them. Not a scandal per se, but we had a huge sit-down protest because the cool janitor got fired because of some petty argument with a lunchtime lady who had a lot of pull. Looking back, she was probably freaking the principal. All students from 10th to 12th grade sat down on the floor in the cafeteria when the bell rung at 8:30 am up until the end of class at 3 p.m. The principal came in at the end of the day and said the janitor would resume his employment. We cheered. It made the news. In my senior year, a group of friends who were goth before goth was really a thing experienced a tragedy when one of the friends accidentally killed the other. The friend who caused the accident took his life a few weeks later. This touched off a wave of suicides at my school, 5 in total, over the next 3 months. There was a male and female high school pet teacher that essentially shared an office. They always got along really well, and kids would always joke that we were dating. We were just dumb kids, so we never really thought anything of it. After a couple years, they both started acting weird around each other, and there were rumors that he left his wife and kids for this pet teacher. This wasn't actually true though. What actually happened was they added on a bedroom to their house and the pet teacher moved in. The kids pretty much just had 2 moms and everyone got along wonderfully. It was strange for about a year, and then it was business as usual. I guess they're going on about 15 years strong. Well, I don't know if this was a school-wide scandal, and it was years after I graduated, but it's a scandal and a half. I went on holiday with my recently graduated brother. I graduated 6 years before him. He had noticed his friends had posted online that they were in that same city too, so we all met up with this group of super young looking dudes all around 18 over 19. There was an older looking woman I kind of recognized, and I assumed it was an older sister. I spoke to her saying, "Hey, I know you from somewhere," and she says, "Yeah, I teach at the school." It hit me that I'd seen her speech at my other brother's graduation 3 years before that. Then it hit me that she was holding hands and kissing this guy who looked about 15, and she was in her mid-30s, not to mention his ex-teacher, even though they only hung out before he graduated, and then they were instantly official. What the actual frick? Apparently they now live together, and she still teaches there. Super weird. Someone created a fake Facebook profile for our principal. He was commenting realistically on teachers' pages, but the context never lined up. "Nice to see you last weekend, Ms. Brown." Then once he had everyone as friends, he started subtly roasting kids. Haha, he accessed the account from the computer lab and was never caught. He was my friend's brother. Junior. Hi. Girls gym teacher post for Playboy nude. Everyone saw those pics after one kid's dad recognized her and let his son take the mag to school. She got fired. Some guy jokingly wrote, "If I won't get a B for this and going on a rampage," on his English test. Fast forward 15 minutes, a police response unit of 12 stormed the classroom and freaking arrested the shoot out of him without being brutal, but it still was quite frightening for deterrence reasons, I guess. A girl in my year lied about having a sexual relationship with a teacher in gross detail, might I add. We all knew that she was straight up crazy and was making it up, but the school board obviously had to take it very seriously, and the teacher was fired. Worst part was that the teacher's wife was also a teacher at the school, and so, even though she wasn't fired, she pretty much had to leave her job as well. The school board eventually figured out the girl was lying and offered both teachers their positions back, but they both declined. At the French-speaking school, some students got suspended because of a song they sang at a talent show. The issue the school had with the song is that it was in English. The students decided to do a sit-in and not go to class in protest of the suspension. Once it hit the news, it reignited a lot of French vs English sentiments throughout the whole town. After I left school, my brother told me that 2 girls were found doing ecstasy in the toilets on the same day that David Cameron was visiting. Note, this was 2016 and the day before the EU referendum. Edit. Typo. A girl in my grade died of a brain tumor a week before the year 12th formal. They buried her the day before the formal. It was freaking horrific. The scandal wasn't so much with the school as with the local hospital. The frickers had told her the migraines she was suffering were just normal stress symptoms, so they didn't pick it up until just before she died. She passed while on the plane to a hospital in the nearest major city. Less than a year later, a teacher also got brain cancer. Before that, the fittest and smartest man I've ever met. Like, crazy healthy. A few other students and teachers have had cancer in the years since, and it's not a big town, so it's a bit weird. There's a part of me that's surprised there hasn't been a scandal about a cancer cluster tbh. There was a home economics teacher who caught a lot of heat for showing how to put a condom on a banana. Edit. She was not teaching sex ed at the time. My high school got on national news for someone drawing swastikas pregnant 7th grader at the middle school. The shit-banded suspected pedophile gym teacher. There was a pregnant 7th grader in my town too. Every teacher took this as a reason to punish everyone in that grade, even people in other schools, because apparently it meant our generation was immoral. The father of the baby was 19 and under arrest for statutory rape, but never mind that. This was clearly the fault of every 12-year in town. /Fascipum. The student council spending $3,000 on just paper. There were 2 teachers at my school who were in their late 20s early 30s who were married. The husband cheated on her with another teacher in her late 40s. Their affair was known by basically everyone. They were even caught in the same car after a school excursion bypassing students. They were on the same seat. Eventually the wife found out, and her office was right next to the mistress apparently, and they moved them to opposite ends of the teacher offices. Also, the husband and wife kept teaching at my school for the entire time I was there, and the husband wound up engaged to his mistress. Apparently the principal was totally on the wife's side, and she got days off to prepare for court whilst the husband didn't. How do nearly all the students know all this? Apparently teachers like gossiping as much as students. Something super similar happened at my school. The high school principal is married to the middle school principal. HS principal starts having an affair with our science teacher, who got married just a year before and used to always go on and on about her husband and how in love they were. Literally everyone knew about the affair, and a few of our teachers confirmed it as they had been seen going to events together. HS principal ended up getting fired. His wife still works there. Also, the science teacher looks exactly like a younger version of his wife. Edit. Forgot to add that the science teacher taught 8th grade, which in my school is middle school. She was freaking her boss husband. Someone started a my school gossip girl page and just started frickin' roasting people. Really sticking it to them with some properly nasty stuff. It was great for me, as I love drama, and I'm a totally immaculate person, or just so unimportant I was skipped completely. They never found out who ran it, but I can say that it was vicious and split the school into factions. War as heck and all that. I'll preface this by saying I went to a private Christian school in Mississippi, which is a scandal in itself. When I was in the 6th or 7th grade, one of our coaches got fired and arrested for sleeping with a girl underage. Problem was her mom found the messages from him to her, and she denied it all. He is still in jail to my knowledge, and she transferred schools. There was another coach doing the same thing and he just left our school. A few years later at a basketball game we were talking to some friends from that school about the whole situation, and it turns out the coach that left was now coaching at the school we were playing. We unintentionally got him to leave that school as well. Runner up, a girl got pregnant her senior year and was not allowed to come to classes, but instead had to sit in the PA room and listen to her classes over the speaker and PA system. It was cruel and unusual, and her classmates had a sit-in to allow her to walk during graduation. I recently learned that principal of a school I used to go to got fired. I was kinda glad, because he was a dickhead. The reason he got fired? After communism was abolished in Poland, apparently, if you wanted to have administrative job you had to sign a document that said you didn't work with communists. Recently it came to light that he in fact did work with communists. Edit. Since this blew up a bit I did additional reading up on this. You have to declare if you worked with communist police, which can mean anything from just being a low rank worker up to being a snitch for them. Declaring you did work with the police doesn't disqualify you from the position, but you have to be accepted by a public vote for the position. He's still working as a teacher. Details about his work with the police are not released, but since he's not in jail it wasn't anything bad. Punishment for the fact that he decided to lie about this is being banned from administrative work for 3 years, maximum is 10, and of course instead of his public opinion will be that he probably is a shady person, since he lied instead that of an honest person. Man, I wish I wasn't so late to this party. Around 1998, someone took a dump in a toilet at my high school. This turd was no joking the circumference of a Coke can and the length of a size 13 shoe. It was so big that it couldn't be flushed. This shoe made its way around the school quickly, and there was a line out the door to that bathroom for an hour at least before the facility caught wind. From what we heard, it took the janitor 4 flushes after breaking it down with a plunger. Fast forward a couple weeks to the real aftermath. Someone managed to take a picture of this turd and created a website dedicated to this mammoth shoot. The person that made the site was dumb enough to use his name on the site, and the school threatened him with expulsion if he didn't take the site down. He said no, so he had to go in front of the school board to make his case about how it's his right to have a website dedicated to a massive shoot. This made the local news and made my junior year extremely funny. We had 2 teachers get fired for exchanging prescription pills the end of my senior year. That year our world studies teacher lost her job too. She taught the class to freshmen, and part of the curriculum centers around learning the basics of the 5 major world religions. We got to take a super cool field trip with her. She took us to a Christian church, Hindu and Buddhist temples, mosque, and synagogue. It was hands down my favorite field trip. My last year, a freshman mom got furious that her kid was gonna be going to a mosque. I live in the deep south BTW. Long story short, the trip got banned and the teacher wound up stepping down after receiving so much hate for trying to make the kids Muslim, even though she was a white Christian woman. I went to a predominantly white high school, and all the white moms basically teamed up to complain to the school about her and tear her to shreds. I think the teacher is doing govt work now. She totally quit teaching after this. God, I freaking hate my hometown. Lockdown from a guy with a gun in the vicinity. A football player senior was using steroids and had a roid rage fit in the library. He smashed a computer, the desk he was at, and ripped out the metal detectors at the door. A guy and his friend were playing with the guy's father's gun. The friend accidentally shot the guy in the head and killed him instantly. The next few days at school were somber and people were quiet. When I was in grade 9 there was a student in grade 12 who overdosed and died. It was very hard on a lot of people in the school. A girl who was in grade 9 decided to break into the recently deceased girl's home and steal her clothes and personal items, and posted pictures and videos of her burning these things on her Facebook. This obviously did not go over well with the rest of the student body, and for the next few days this girl had a huge target on her back. It came down to every 5 minutes a student would pull the fire alarm and force every person out of the school so that people could try to find this girl and frick her up. The student was being protected by the principal, and no one could get near her. The fire alarm was pulled around 10 times that day. You would barely sit back at your desk after being inside before there was another fire alarm. High school that I went to as a student. The year I graduated, the gym teacher who was also the girls basketball coach and always had the rumors of did he frick so and so was promoted to assistant principal. I returned from college 4 years later to work there as a tar, and the gym teacher / app is being transferred to another school because he was caught fricking a guidance counselor. Both of them married. They were caught by a school janitor while doing it in her office after hours. Gonna try to keep this as vague as possible to avoid doxing the perpetrators. The class before me did some things that led the district to ban senior cruises, i.e. a vacation near or just after the end of the last school year. Granted, they couldn't really enforce it, but they did ban all fundraising events for senior cruises from taking place on school grounds. On this senior cruise, one of the girls got blackout drunk and passed out on the floor. One of our star football players decided it would be a great idea to gather everyone up, strip the girl naked, and cram all manner of phallic objects into places they did not belong. Also wrote all manner of slurs on her. Kids were taking photos of the deed, and there was even a videotape. The ringleader and 1 or 2 of his buddies got some jail time, but everyone else got away with fines and or community service, and most of their records are sealed due to having been minors at the time of the crime. It also helped that several of the parents involved were lawyers, and one of them may have even been the local DA. I knew the guy's sister, she was in my classes. I never saw her smile again after the news broke.